Royal watchers thought they understood the life of Princess Beatrice, but whispers surrounding her husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, have begun to paint a more unsettling picture. What appeared as harmless gossip has unraveled into a trail of hidden connections, controversies, and moments the palace would rather keep buried. Behind polished smiles and staged appearances, something feels off, something that refuses to stay hidden forever. Are these just exaggerated rumors, or is there truth lurking beneath the surface? Drop a yes or no in the comments as we uncover these 15 scary facts. Number 15. The hidden breakup. Long before Princess Beatrice stepped into his life, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi was already building what seemed like a secure future with Dara Huang. Their relationship didn't begin as a fleeting romance. It was steady, serious, and filled with long-term plans. Dara, sharp and driven, had already carved her own path after studying at Harvard, later founding a successful design company from scratch. She wasn't just a partner, she was a force in her own right. From the outside, everything about them looked perfect. They were engaged, deeply connected, and moving toward a shared future that many believed was unshakable. But beneath that polished image, something quiet and troubling had already begun to grow. Then came a moment that usually strengthens love. Dara became pregnant. For most couples, that kind of news brings joy and unity. But here, it seemed to reveal cracks that had been hiding for far too long. The distance between them didn't shrink. It widened. Conversations became rare. Silence filled the spaces where warmth once lived. Behind closed doors, the reality was far from the image they showed the world. There were days, even weeks, when they barely spoke. Imagine carrying a child while feeling completely alone, as if the ground beneath your feet was slowly breaking apart. Dara likely saw the truth forming in front of her, that she might have to face everything on her own. Still, she tried to hold on. She fought for what they once had, refusing to let it slip away easily. But pressure builds, and eventually, it breaks. One heated night, words were said that could never be taken back. That was the moment everything shifted. Just when the silence felt unbearable, everything took a darker, more unexpected turn after their breakup. Then a baby was born. Could this fragile moment bring them back together, or tear them apart even more? Stay tuned to find out. Number 14. Newborn son and silent distance. In 2016, everything changed with the arrival of their son, Christopher Wolf Mapelli Mozzi, lovingly called Wolfie. His birth should have been a fresh beginning, a reason to rebuild and grow stronger as a family. But instead, he came into a situation that was already quietly falling apart, even if no one dared to say it out loud. From the outside, the following year told a very different story. In 2017, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi and Dara Huang were still appearing together at events, standing side by side, smiling for cameras as though nothing had changed. They looked like a couple still deeply connected, still committed, still moving forward together. To the public, there was no sign of trouble, only polished images and quiet confidence. But those moments, frozen in photographs, were carefully maintained illusions. Behind the scenes, things had already shifted in ways no one could see. The warmth that once defined their relationship had faded, replaced by distance and unspoken tension. What people believed was stability was, in truth, something much more fragile. By 2018, the truth could no longer be hidden. Their relationship had come to an end, not with loud headlines or dramatic announcements, but in silence. It was a quiet separation, almost invisible to the outside world, as if everything they had built simply dissolved without explanation. Yet what happened next raised even more questions. Just months after that breakup, Edoardo was suddenly linked to Princess Beatrice. The timing felt almost too close, too quick to ignore. It left many wondering what had really been going on beneath the surface all along. Before we dive into that, Let's take a closer look at Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi's past, the one moment that completely changed how people see him. Number 13. A death in the spotlight. In 2011, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi received a phone call that would permanently shift the course of his life. His stepfather, Christopher Shale, had died suddenly. The setting made the moment even more shocking. It was not a quiet passing in a private home, but a public tragedy at Glastonbury Festival, one of the largest and most crowded music events in Britain. Thousands of people were around. Music, noise, and flashing cameras filled the air when the news broke. Only days before this incident, Shale's name was already being discussed in the media for another reason. A private political memo he had written had been leaked, exposing his blunt and unforgiving opinions. In the document, he criticized members of his own political circle, describing them in harsh and embarrassing terms that quickly spread across headlines. The controversy placed him under sudden public pressure just before his death. At the time of the tragedy, Shale held an important political position as the chairman of David Cameron's local Conservative Association. His role made the situation even more sensitive, turning a personal loss into a national conversation. When his body was later discovered in a backstage area at the festival, the shock deepened. What should have been a private family emergency instantly became public news across newspapers and television reports. The timing of everything made the story even more intense. A leaked document, public scrutiny, and sudden death all collided within a matter of days, leaving behind confusion and unanswered questions. For the family, grief was no longer something they could experience in private. It unfolded under the eyes of an entire country watching closely. For Edoardo, the impact was deeply personal, but it also marked the beginning of a pattern where private family struggles seemed to repeatedly intersect with public attention and media exposure. Number 12. Hidden royal connections. Edoardo was born on November 19, 1983, at London's Portland Hospital, a private facility known for serving wealthy and high-profile families, including members of the royal circle. From the very beginning, his life was quietly linked to privilege and influence. In an interesting twist, the same hospital had also welcomed Princess Beatrice years earlier, creating a subtle connection between them long before their paths crossed. His father, Edoardo Mapelli, had a truly international background that shaped the family's outlook on life. Born in Argentina, raised in Italy, and educated in England, he lived across different cultures with ease. He even represented Great Britain in the 1972 Winter Olympics, proving his ability to adapt and succeed in new environments. After his time in sports, he moved into the art world, becoming a successful international dealer and earning recognition within the Royal Society of Arts. Edoardo's mother, Nikki Williams Ellis, built her own career across politics, charity, and design. After her remarriage, Christopher Shale joined the family, creating a blended household that added new layers to Edoardo's upbringing. Growing up in this environment meant constantly adjusting to different personalities, expectations, and lifestyles under one roof. From an early age, Edoardo was exposed to a mix of cultures, ideas, and traditions. Family life was not defined by one identity, but shaped by many influences coming together. He learned that belonging was not fixed to one place, but something that could evolve over time through experience and ambition. This upbringing helped him develop a flexible mindset. He became comfortable moving between different social circles and adapting to new situations with ease. It also gave him a deeper understanding of people from different backgrounds, something that would later influence his personal and professional relationships. Over time, this constant exposure to change built a quiet confidence in him, preparing him for a life that would eventually connect him to the world of royalty in unexpected ways. There is also a part of Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi's background that people often bring up but rarely fully explain, especially when it comes to his title and what it truly means. Let's break it down. Number 11. The shadowed legacy of a noble title. Edoardo's family holds the historic title of Count from the former Kingdom of Italy, a distinction passed down through generations and first granted in 1913 by King Victor Emmanuel III. On the surface, it appears to be a symbol of prestige and old-world nobility, a reminder of Italy's royal past and the families once tied to its court. But beneath that polished image lies a far more troubling history that casts a shadow over the title itself. The same monarch who created this noble rank would later, in 1938, approve harsh racial laws that targeted Italian Jews, stripping them of their rights, removing them from public life, and pushing many toward deportation during the rise of Nazi rule. Because of this, the very title Edoardo carries today is connected, however indirectly, to a period marked by exclusion, fear, and deep human suffering. Even though the Italian monarchy was officially abolished in 1946 and all noble titles lost legal recognition, Edoardo's family chose to continue using the Count designation. It no longer holds any legal authority or political meaning, yet it remains an important part of how the family presents its identity. For them, it is less about power and more about continuity, a way of holding on to a lineage that stretches far back into history. This decision shows a strong attachment to tradition, even when that tradition no longer exists in the modern legal system. That connection to the past becomes even more visible through the family's ancestral estate, Villa Mapelli, located in northern Italy. This is not just a grand residence, but a structure with centuries of history behind it. Originally built in the 15th century, it once served as a monastery before eventually becoming part of the Mapelli family heritage. Over time, it has been preserved and passed down, standing as a physical reminder of how deeply rooted the family is in Italy's historical landscape. Growing up in such an environment meant Edoardo was constantly surrounded by symbols of legacy and inheritance. Every wall, corridor, and artifact inside the estate reflected generations of decisions, traditions, and status that existed long before his birth. It created a life where personal identity was closely tied to historical weight, shaping how he viewed belonging, reputation, and continuity across time. Number 10. Edoardo's turning point after loss. Edoardo's education followed a path shaped by privilege and expectation. He began at the Dragon School in Oxford, known for educating children from influential families, before moving on to Radley College, a traditional boarding school with strong discipline and academic standards. He later attended the University of Edinburgh, earning a master's degree in politics. On paper, his journey looked structured and impressive, filled with opportunity, stability, and access to elite spaces that prepared him for leadership and public life. However, no level of preparation could shield him from the emotional shock that came in 2011. The sudden and very public loss of his stepfather changed everything. It was not just a private moment of grief, but one that unfolded under public attention, where reactions were observed and discussed. In such a situation, there is little room to break down openly. Edoardo had to remain composed, even while dealing with personal pain that could not be easily expressed. This moment became a clear turning point. Instead of withdrawing, he chose to stay active. He stepped into charity work, supporting fundraising efforts and public causes. One of his most demanding efforts involved cycling overnight across London to raise money, showing both physical endurance and determination. He also contributed to international projects, including helping support the development of Rwanda's first grass cricket stadium, promoting opportunity through sport. While these actions appeared generous on the surface, they also revealed something deeper about his character. They showed a pattern of pushing forward, refusing to be held back by loss, and turning difficult experiences into purposeful activity. It was a way of staying in control, channeling emotion into movement and visible impact. Still, behind these actions lies a bigger question about readiness, identity, and the pressures he carried into adulthood. especially in a world where personal life and public image often collide in unexpected ways. Amid all this, something deeply serious emerged, an issue that shook the community. But how much of that fallout is he truly connected to? Keep watching to find out. Number 9. The collapse of trust. People living along Australia's Gold Coast had placed deep trust in Edoardo with something extremely sensitive: their money. Not small amounts, but life savings built slowly over years of hard work, sacrifice, and long-term hope for a better future. Many of them believed they were stepping into a secure opportunity, guided by a vision that looked polished and carefully planned from the outside. The project at the center of it all was the Mastad Ocean Club, a luxury beachfront development presented as an exclusive escape filled with comfort, modern design, and high-end living. Everything about it appeared refined and carefully marketed to attract confidence and excitement. The promotional materials were powerful and visually appealing. Glossy images showed stunning coastal views, elegant buildings, and a lifestyle that seemed almost guaranteed. The messages behind it were equally convincing, filled with strong promises and bold claims that suggested stability and success. Media attention added even more weight, portraying the development as part of a larger international movement backed by influential and dependable figures. To ordinary investors, it did not feel like a risk. It felt like a rare chance, something secure, something valuable, something that could change their lives for the better. As more people bought into the idea, confidence continued to grow. Families committed their savings, believing they were securing future homes or profitable returns. The dream seemed solid, built on trust and public reassurance. Every detail reinforced the belief that this was not just another property scheme, but a carefully managed project destined for success. Then, without any warning signs that most could see, everything collapsed. The company behind the Mastad Ocean Club suddenly entered administration. What once looked like a promising development was abandoned almost overnight. Construction stopped completely, plans were frozen, and the vision that had once inspired so many people simply vanished. Those who had invested were left facing a harsh reality. There were no homes, no financial returns, and no clear answers. What remained were fading images of luxury advertising and the emotional weight of lost trust and broken expectations. What made the situation even more unsettling was the position Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi found himself in at that moment. Number 8. Banda Empire. The Banda property story has a side that often stays hidden. Edoardo founded Banda in 2007 at just 23, stepping straight out of university into the property world. While he was young, he wasn't starting from nothing. His background and strong connections gave him access to opportunities most beginners could not reach. From the beginning, his idea sounded simple and effective. Find areas in London that seemed overlooked, turn them into luxury homes, and sell them to wealthy buyers looking for something unique. It was a clear plan built on timing and vision. Over time, that idea grew into something much bigger. In less than 2 decades, Banda handled developments worth over £875 million. It transformed from a small startup into a powerful property company, constantly buying, rebuilding, and selling in some of London's most desirable locations. Edoardo, who later revealed he is dyslexic, appeared to lean into his strengths in design, creativity, and architecture. His projects reflected a strong focus on high-end living, helping him build a polished and attractive brand. But as the company's image grew, so did questions about its core message. Banda often claimed it focused on undervalued parts of London, presenting its work as a way of improving forgotten areas. Edoardo repeated this idea in public, making it sound responsible and even helpful. However, this narrative began to face criticism. Journalists and property experts started to look closer, especially when one of Banda's major developments appeared in Notting Hill, one of the most expensive areas in the country. There was nothing overlooked about it. At the same time, London faced a housing crisis, with rising prices forcing many families out of their neighborhoods. In that context, building more luxury homes only widened the gap between wealth and affordability. Despite the criticism, Edoardo maintained a calm and confident image, continuing to build, speak publicly, and move forward without showing any sign of slowing down. That ability to maintain composure under pressure had defined him for years. But what truly connected this carefully built world to a sudden royal romance that no one saw coming? Was it pure coincidence, or something more carefully arranged behind the scenes? Stay tuned. Number 7. Princess Beatrice's broken engagement. Princess Beatrice's engagement to Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi lasted only 51 days, turning what should have been a joyful chapter into a brief and complicated moment in royal life. Before meeting him, Princess Beatrice had spent nearly a decade in a long relationship with Dave Clark that ended quietly without an engagement or public explanation. Her connection with Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi began through long-standing family ties between the Windsors and the Mapelli Mozzis, eventually developing privately away from public attention. By 2018, they were quietly together, and in March 2019, they made their first public appearance at a London fundraising event. By May 2019, their relationship was confirmed after attending Lady Gabriella Windsor's wedding, showing clear public recognition. In September 2019, Edoardo proposed, commissioning a distinctive engagement ring designed by jeweler Sean Lean, known for bold and unconventional artistic creations. Lean's designs often draw from striking and dramatic themes, reflecting a world where beauty and darkness coexist in his artistic style. On September 26, 2019, Buckingham Palace announced their engagement in a simple statement that confirmed their plans to marry. However, reports suggested that not everyone in the royal family fully supported the relationship, with concerns about its fast progression. Behind the scenes, Princess Beatrice was preparing for a future that included wedding plans, stability, and a renewed sense of hope. But within just 51 days of the engagement announcement, the relationship collapsed, marking a sudden and unexpected end to the chapter. Despite the brief nature of the engagement, the story drew attention because of the couple's backgrounds, their fast-moving relationship, and the emotional weight of their past experiences. It also highlighted how closely watched royal relationships are, where private decisions quickly become public narratives shaped by speculation and media scrutiny. Ultimately, Princess Beatrice and Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi's early journey reflected both personal history and royal pressure, showing how quickly private love stories can shift under public expectation, leaving behind questions about timing, compatibility, and the unseen challenges that shaped their brief engagement and its sudden end, and how public scrutiny often intensifies already fragile personal decisions behind closed doors further. Number 6. Hidden truth behind Beatrice's wedding. In the summer of 2020, the wedding of Princess Beatrice and Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi took place in a way few expected. Unlike most royal ceremonies filled with global attention, cameras, and grand public celebration, this one was quiet, almost hidden from the world. Officially, the explanation pointed to the global pandemic restrictions that had changed how even the royal family could operate. But behind the reduced guest list and the missing grandeur, questions began to grow about whether there was more to the story than just safety concerns. Some observers linked the timing of the private ceremony to the intense public pressure surrounding Prince Andrew's controversies, which had cast a long shadow over the royal household. For Princess Beatrice, the moment was meant to be joyful, yet it unfolded under extraordinary global tension and personal uncertainty. And while official statements emphasize safety and timing, the absence of a traditional royal spectacle only fueled deeper speculation. Was it simply COVID-19 restrictions shaping the decision, or was it also influenced by the storm already circling the monarchy after years of controversy? The guest list was drastically reduced, the venue carefully controlled, and every moment tightly managed to avoid unnecessary attention. Even the presence of close family members was handled with unusual discretion, creating an atmosphere far removed from typical royal tradition. Some royal commentators later suggested that the scale of the event may have reflected a careful effort to protect the family's image during a period of intense scrutiny. In the end, what was shown to the public was only a carefully edited version of a much larger story, unfolding behind closed doors. This leaves many still questioning what really happened away from the cameras and whether the truth was ever fully revealed. Looking back, the wedding that was meant to mark a new beginning instead became one of the most controlled royal moments in recent memory, raising doubts that still linger today. But was their picture-perfect union truly protected by silence or shaped by hidden pressure? No one admits. Stay glued as we uncover what came next. Number 5. The night. Everything shifted. The baby arrived far earlier than expected, turning what should have been a calm moment into a rush of fear and urgency. It was January 22nd, 2025, at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. Their daughter, Athena Elizabeth Rose Mapelli Mozzi, entered the world weeks before her due date. Instead of peace, the night was filled with alarms, movement, and anxious waiting. From the outside, their life still looked carefully arranged and picture-perfect. But behind that image, pressure had been building for a long time, silent but constant, pressing in from every direction without relief. After the wedding, everything moved quickly. They settled into a 4-bedroom residence inside the historic walls of St. James's Palace. Living there was not like owning a normal home. It was a space defined by rules, permission, and tradition. They existed inside its luxury, but never truly as owners of it. Every comfort came with boundaries they did not control. At the same time, the institution around them was already shifting. Support was being quietly withdrawn from Prince Andrew, creating an atmosphere where even close family members felt uncertainty about their place. That uncertainty extended to them as well. Princess Beatrice and Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi were not working royals. They had no formal duties, yet they were never out of sight. That strange position meant they were visible enough to attract attention, but not protected enough to be shielded from it. They belonged to the world, but not fully inside its structure. They were included in appearance, yet kept at a distance in reality. Beatrice continued her professional role with discipline, working at a technology firm known as Affinity, where she held a senior position in strategic partnerships. It appeared balanced on the surface, a royal figure also building a corporate career. But in 2021, pressure returned in a new form. A major investigation published by the New York Times examined the company's founder, Giacici, after serious allegations of misconduct surfaced. The claims led to his resignation. Beatrice remained in her role, and no public statement followed. No separation, no explanation. Silence filled the space where answers were expected, and life continued as though nothing had changed. Number 4. The quiet shift after the Queen's passing. In late 2022, a major shift quietly took place in their lives. They stepped away from palace surroundings and relocated to a 6-bedroom converted farmhouse in the Cotswolds. The property came with wide-open gardens, a private tennis court, and even a large outdoor swimming pool, forming a peaceful countryside setting far removed from royal corridors. On the surface, it appeared like a lifestyle upgrade, a calm retreat designed for privacy and comfort. The estimated value of the home, around £3.5 million, only added to the image of stability and ease. But the timing told a very different story. Just months earlier, in September 2022, Queen Elizabeth II had passed away. Her death marked a turning point not only for the monarchy, but also for those who had once operated under her quiet protection. She had been a steady and influential presence in their lives, offering support and a sense of security that often shielded them from the most intense pressures surrounding royal existence. Her approval carried weight, and her absence left a gap that could not be easily filled. Following her passing, The move away from palace proximity was not simply about lifestyle or personal preference. It was a moment of adjustment, a necessary step into a new reality where the protective influence they once relied on was no longer present. Without that stabilizing figure, everything around them required reassessment, from how they lived to how they were perceived within royal circles. At that time, their family already included one child, Sienna Elizabeth Mapelli Mozzi, born in September 2021. She was still very young, yet already part of a structured world defined by tradition and expectation. Her place in the line of succession meant her life was quietly shaped by rules she had no control over, even from infancy. Alongside her, Wolfie continued to grow within a uniquely divided world, moving between private family life and connections tied to royal influence. His upbringing reflected a balance of two very different realities, each shaping his understanding of identity in subtle but lasting ways. And then everything began to shift again, a circumstances that led to this sudden and unexpected moment. But why did everything change faster than they could prepare for? Number 3. Premature birth of Athena. In October 2024, the announcement of a second pregnancy was shared with the public. The images were warm, the smiles genuine, and the tone filled with excitement. To those watching from the outside, it seemed like a joyful step forward, another happy chapter for a growing family. But behind that carefully presented moment, a different reality was quietly building. This was not simply about welcoming another child. It came at a time when life already carried heavy demands, both privately and publicly, stretching their ability to balance everything around them. As the news settled, expectations began to rise once again. Every detail, every appearance, every update carried attention. The pressure was not just emotional, but constant, shaped by public interest and the unspoken weight of royal responsibility. It was a situation where even personal milestones were never fully private, always observed and often judged. Then, everything changed in an instant. The birth of their daughter, Athena, came earlier than expected. It was not part of any plan, and it brought a sudden wave of fear and uncertainty that no one could prepare for. What had started as a moment of celebration quickly turned into something far more intense. The sense of control they once held over their lives seemed to slip away, replaced by worry, urgency, and the unknown. Beatrice later opened up about how deeply this experience affected her. It was not just difficult, but overwhelming in a way that left a lasting emotional impact. She described it as something that shook her completely, a moment filled with fear that stayed with her long after. It was raw and deeply personal, far removed from the composed image often seen in public. Yet from that frightening experience, a new sense of purpose began to form. Instead of turning away from the pain, she chose to face it directly. She became involved with Born, a charity focused on ending premature birth, using her experience to support a cause that now felt close to her heart. Number 2. The man who never speaks. Unlike many figures connected to the royal spotlight, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi has built a reputation around one thing: silence. While controversies swirl around the royal family, especially those tied to Prince Andrew, he remains noticeably absent from public commentary. No interviews addressing tension, no statements clarifying rumors, no visible attempt to defend or explain. For a man so closely linked to Princess Beatrice, that silence feels deliberate, almost calculated. In a world where public figures rush to control narratives, Edoardo does the opposite. He steps back, avoids headlines, and lets speculation rise without interference. Some see this as intelligence, a strategic decision to protect both his personal brand and his family from deeper scrutiny. By saying nothing, he avoids saying the wrong thing. But others view it differently. They question whether this quiet approach is less about wisdom and more about concealment. After all, silence can be powerful, but it can also leave gaps that the public fills with suspicion. Even when his business ventures face criticism, or when royal tensions reach global headlines, his composure never seems to break. He continues appearing at carefully selected events, maintaining a calm, controlled image, as if untouched by the chaos surrounding him. That consistency is striking. It suggests discipline, but also raises an uncomfortable thought. Is he simply protecting his privacy, or carefully avoiding questions he cannot easily answer? Because in the royal world, where every word is analyzed and every move is watched, choosing silence is never a neutral act. It shapes perception just as much as speaking out. And the longer that silence continues, the louder it becomes, leaving many to wonder what remains unspoken behind closed doors. Number 1. Beatrice's transformation. Before Princess Beatrice became closely linked with Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, her life followed a very different rhythm. She maintained a relatively low profile, balancing royal appearances with a growing career in business and technology. Her identity felt separate from the intense scrutiny often placed on senior royals, allowing her to move with a degree of independence that many in her position rarely experience. But once Edoardo entered the picture, subtle shifts began to appear. Changes that didn't happen overnight, yet became impossible to ignore over time. Her public presence evolved first. Appearances became more curated, more refined, and noticeably aligned with a polished, almost corporate image often associated with Edoardo's world of high-end property and elite networks. Then came the deeper changes. Decisions about where to live, how to raise a blended family, and how to navigate public life seemed increasingly shaped by a shared direction rather than individual paths. Their move away from central royal residences and into a more private countryside setting reflected not just lifestyle preference, but a strategic repositioning. Even her professional journey appeared to adjust. While she continued working, the balance between career ambition and family responsibility seemed to shift. Especially after becoming a mother and stepmother, it raised quiet questions among observers. Was this simply a natural evolution of life, or did Edoardo's influence play a stronger role than anyone openly admits? Because influence in relationships is rarely obvious. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in slowly, shaping choices, priorities, and even identity without clear boundaries. And in a life already shaped by royal expectation, that added layer of influence becomes even more complex, leaving many to wonder where Beatrice's original path ended and their shared one truly began. So, which of these facts scares you the most? What do you think about the shocking truth surrounding Princess Beatrice's husband? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.